Hey everyone, it's your host here, Psychic Mean Brother Chris from Divine Oracle Podcast. Just saying to let you know, Jillian will not be taking part in today's episode. She's got some personal running around to do, and it's also running around for us here at Divine Oracle Podcast. On today's show, though, I will be sitting down with Clair Candy. She is well known for being actually a radio person, TV show host, Reiki master, and also a bestseller author. We're going to be discussing a little bit more information about her spiritual walk, right where she's being and right where she's going to go. Sit back, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome to Divine Oracle Podcast here on the Podbean, where your hosts, Psychic Mean Brother Chris and Jillian, sit down and discuss with a lot of people about their spiritual walk, right where they've been and right where they've started, with people throughout North America. Jillian and Chris will also be doing actually little talks of ways that you can improve your spiritual life. Join us underneath the Divine Oracle Podcast on Podbean. And we do say thank you very much for taking part in today's episode.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest.
Yes. Now, I was going through your website, and it's Angel's Healing House, which is really beautiful. I love the way that you've got your website set up. Now, I was noticing, though, to do with, about your history. Can you let our viewers know a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I think where I can start with is a little bit of my bio. I created my Angel Healing House healing practice shortly after I had my angelic walk-in experience in 2003. Many people know about walk-ins now, but then in 2003, it was something that was hardly known at all. The computers were in their infancy, and there wasn't much information about it then. So I kind of had to find out these things on my own, and Spirit was very helpful in assuring me and sending me the people that confirmed to me that I had had an angelic walk-in experience. Through Angel Healing House, I am a Reiki master teacher. I have my two disciplines in Reiki. One of them is in the Asui, Japanese traditional Reiki, and the other is through Session Sekum, which is the lesser known one, which is the Egyptian form of Reiki. And some would say that the Asui form is the more physical, and Session Sekum is the more cosmic. And my students, I've taught hundreds and hundreds of students over the last 23 years, and those that go on to learn Reiki, especially the cosmic after they've learned the physical, say it's like Reiki on steroids. So I'm also an emotion code practitioner, finding those hidden, trapped emotional, ancestral and generational trapped emotions that sabotage us, that we don't even know we're carrying because we've inherited them through birth. I'm also a tarot card reader and intuitive counselor, and I am a representative of a posse of angels, we are called. We are 537 strong, and I'm their representative. They won't tell me if I'm number 1 or number 537. They won't tell me this because it keeps me humble. Yes. But I am the representative, and I channel them through everything that I do. I don't have to quiet myself to channel. I am channeling 24 hours a day. So I'm just, that's a bit of my bio. I also am an Amazon International #1 best-selling author. My books have gone #1 in 5 countries, and they're all about how we do not die, and we are divine and eternal. And I help people to remember their divinity. So I think up there, most of all, what people want to know about is my angelic walk-in experience, because a lot of people have heard a great deal, Chris, about star seeds walking in, but rarely, and a very few of us on planet Earth are from the angelic realm. We just have transcend as angels the birth and death wheel. We are very happy to live in our 12th dimension, angelic realm, and we really don't need to come back here. But when the clarion call went out, especially after the twin towers were taken down by a very dark agenda, there was a call across the galaxies, across all universes, to say, please, we need your help in all the good energies that were built up from the harmonic convergence to when those twin towers fell down. We need to, bring light to the fear and the doubt that was plunged this planet back into the dark. And that's when 2001, 2002, 2003, the great amount of walk-ins started to be seeded on the planet. And that's when I came in January 11th of 2003. So I think today we'll mainly center on what it means to be a walk-in, especially an angelic walk-in, and how it affects us being in human form, and what we are here to be an example of. Because I wouldn't say that we're here to teach anybody. Everybody has to come to their own realization on their own. But we're here as an example to what it looks like, and what it reflects, to live from that divinity, to live from that divine place. So I think that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Because I noticed those for myself, though, after the World Trade Centers actually were hit. That's right when actually calling for myself actually happened. And it's not because we've lost somebody close to our family. It's just, though, that the call was there for me directly. And I could understand what you were saying right when you were talking about the call. And yes, the call was there loud and clear. And a lot of people could actually sense it right when we were more in tune. Even if we were just starting actually with our intuitive, we could actually sense there was a call there for us directly.
There was. I just got a shiver from my head down to my feet, and that's my confirmation from my angelic family, the posse of angels. It was tremendous call, a clarion call out to the universe that we needed help. Because if you look back from 1987 to building up to when that dark agenda took out those twin towers, and it was a planned demolition. It's obvious it was a planned demolition. You could see that the world was rapidly waking up to consciousness. If you remember all those bookstores, I'm of a certain age where I remember Tower Records and Borders bookstores, and the burgeoning amount of New Age books and sections. I mean, they were taking over whole floors, and not just a little bit of an occult or pagan section,
Yes.
in the back. And the teachings of Abraham and Esther Hicks and the Seth materials and the laws of attraction, and all of those things were building. And the dark said, we can't have this anymore. We must plunge the world back into darkness. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Now, going through like you were saying, though, that you've done some books, and I noticed underneath your website that you have 3 of them written down.
Right.
Now, we're going to discuss about those actually, and the first one I'm looking, though, is Angels and Faith.
Okay, Angels of Faith.
Yes.
Is this lovely book.
Yeah, and is for a child by any chance?
It's for children of all ages.
Okay.
I've heard, because it's about how we are divine and eternal and we do not die. I've actually heard from people in old age homes, in hospices, that have bought copies of the book, because the book is written with the angelic language of light. And it's in the telling of the story that you connect with your divine eternal nature, and you remember that you are divine and eternal, and you do not die. And so people with illnesses or grief-stricken people, this awakens something in them that you've done this before, and you'll do, and if you choose to, you'll do it again. And when the book came out, I'll tell you the magic of this book.
Go right ahead. I would love to hear about it.
When the book came out, I heard from a client in Australia that read it, and she said, I cannot thank you enough for this book. She says, my mother is very ill, terminally ill, and the book gave me so much hope. But I'd have to tell you, when I read the book, I got 3/4 of the way through when my eyes started to well up with tears, and I started to remember something I had forgotten long ago. I said, that's wonderful. Can I write that down in a testimonial? She said, you sure can. Chris, it was 4 days later, I heard from a client in Santa Barbara, and he congratulated me on the book, and he said, I've ordered copies of it for my family, but I got to tell you something strange. This was 4 days later.
Yeah.
I read the book, I got 3/4 of the way through, and my eyes started to well up with tears as I started to remember something that I'd forgotten long ago. I said, oh my God, that's the same thing somebody said in Australia 4 days ago. And at the end of the week, a hospice worker called me up and congratulated me on the book. And she said, I have to tell you that's what happened. I got halfway through the book and I started to sob as I remembered that I was divine. So from Australia to California to Virginia, where this hospice worker was, the Angels of Fate is working its magic to wake up people to how very divine they are. I'd like to recite the poem that is in the beginning of this book.
The floor is all yours.
It's called Angel, and I'll only reveal the magic of this after I recite the poem. An angel once drew near to me and said in heavenly voice, I'll give you but one wish. Pray, what will be your choice? I said, my godly messenger, I've traveled far and wide. I've had the best of teachers. You see, I'm not untried. And if I must but make one wish, my mind is clear and free. For rather than own all the world, let me but myself be. That was written by the former soul's father, who was a great metaphysician, and he wrote it when he was 11 years old.
Really
he knew, and he started channeling messages from his own spirit guides when he was 11, and he knew that there was nothing more powerful and nothing more magical and miraculous than each one of us, the kingdom in here. It's not out there. So this is quite a magical book that awakens people of all ages. It presents itself as a children's book, but just like the book, The Little Prince, it looks like it's a children's book, but it goes so deep.
Yeah, and I love the poem of what you said. And it does speak to a lot of people in so many ways, and hopefully our listeners actually it hit them also, which is so good.
Especially in this world of consumerism, rather than own all the world. We've been said, oh, compete, and you need to have the latest this and the biggest that, and da-da-da, whatever it is, rather than own all the world. My wish is to be me.
Yeah.
Let me but myself be.
Yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of people are starting to figure out about is, hey, it's me. It's not to do with Tom, Dick, and Harry. It's not to do with them. You have to focus actually on yourself.
Exactly.
And it's like, so yeah, and then you've got 2 other books, though, that you've actually got.
I do. The first one I'd like to speak about is this one, One True Home, Behind the Veil of Forgetfulness. This one is about my 5 most important past lives. And why were they most important? When I walked in, Angel Ariel, walked into Clair Candy's body in January 11th of 2003, all the Clairs started coming back to me. Clairvoyance, clairsentient, claircognizant, you name it. All the Clairs started coming back, and I started to remember my past lives. Now, they were the most important because I grew the most spiritually. And it shows the arc of when the book starts off as I myself as being an Egyptian princess. I lived out that life. And then what happened after I transcended from this human form to spirit and went through the transition period. I had my reunion party. I then went to the Hall of Remembrance and the Hall of Akashic Records. I met with the Etheric Council, and then we looked in my book of records and the contract that I wrote in my book of records, and we went over it, not to judge me, but like, how did you go in that life?
Yeah.
And how did you go with the lessons that you contracted? And then what did I do afterwards? Well, I certainly didn't get a harp and a halo and just float around. I went to, first of all, it's very exhausting living a human incarnation. So a lot of people want to rest, and you can manifest whatever you want on the other side. So I manifested the home I wanted in the different part of the world. You know, sometimes I had my Italian villa, and sometimes I had my beautiful old Victorian home on the beaches of Long Island. You know, sometimes I was in the mountains. It depends, you know, what you want. Instantaneous, because it's 0 point energy across the veil. There is no time, so it's instant manifestation. But it shows the arc, and then of a human life to life in spirit. And then when we decide, nobody forces you to come back. Nobody.
Yeah.
You choose to come back, because it's like a double-blind study when you come back to learn your lessons. On the hardest place to learn your lessons is the earth plane. Actually, the angels, your spirit guides, laud you, knowing this, because it's a human game, for coming in, because it's so difficult to find love on a planet where love so often does not exist on this planet. And it's shaded, and it's deceitful, and it's deceptive, and you know, if you survive a human life, it's pretty awe-inspiring to those across the veil. So it shows the arc. Then you meet with the Etheric Council again. You choose your parents, you choose your siblings, you choose your lessons, and then you come in again to the circumstances, depending on how you want to build on your last life. And then it shows the arc of it coming in and going out, and going out and coming in, and how I transcended these lives then to learn the wisdom from them, to then give up my will to become an angel in service to God's source creator, as Angel Ariel, who's in this body now. And what this book does to people is they get about 50 or 60 pages into it, and they say, suddenly, it just is not my story. Again, it awakens something in them, because it's written in the angelic language of light.
Yeah.
That I've done this before. You know, they might not have been a courtesan as I was in Venice, Italy, as a slave. I was a captured slave off the west coast of Africa, made to travel across the Middle Passage in the most filth and degradation, across the seas to get to Fredericksburg, Virginia, and the dehumanizing that I went through as a young girl. And when I lived as part of the Lakota tribe, in probably the most awakened spiritual life that I lived, but it awakens something in people that they've done this before as well. And that's really the purpose of the book, to awaken them to their divinity.
Yeah, yeah, and I love what you've said about a lot of the things in there, and it was going through my mind though. I'm like, holy cow, that would be an awesome book for me to get.
Yeah,
uh,
and also if you love to listen to audiobooks,
yeah,
my husband and I were the executive producers on these two novels, and I was the narrator, and of course also the Angel Ariel character, and we employed professional voiceover actors to play the parts in the book, and the both audiobooks are a beautiful, beautiful testimony to follow these great channeled works.
yeah, that's cool. It's like a yeah, because I know Ariana has been one of my has been one of my angels that works with me directly, and then my other angel is Gabrielle.
Oh, beautiful.
So it's like, gosh, yeah. And then your last final book, which is I Am Angelic Walking In. Yes.
I am an angelic walk in the autobiography
Yeah.
of Angel Ariel. Now, people are mystified by this cover. And when I wrote this book, it was not 9 months after One True Home. And the Posse of Angels said to me, it's now time to write the sequel. I said, is there a sequel to One True Home? And they said, you bet. I wrote this book in about 6 weeks. And when it came, it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I said, what do I put on the cover? And they said, put you on the cover. And it was like a deer in the headlights, because not many people were coming out. It's like coming out of the closet and speaking about being an angel in human form. I actually was interviewed by Shar Margolis twice on her show when I was at Gower Studios in Hollywood. And afterwards, she came up to me and she said, you must have the biggest set of blank to come out in the public and speak about this. I admire you so much. This book is how Clair Candy was brought up, and the way in which she lost her light. She lost her light. She was so traumatized by the controlling way in which she grew up, and then she was then passed along to an abusive, controlling man. And she was in that relationship for 26 years before she had the strength and the courage to leave. And the trauma just ran too deep for her. And she wished every day, Chris, for God to take her out of her body. Of course, she didn't do this consciously.
Yeah.
Because she was a good girl. She was an acquiescing girl. She never would go against her family or anything else, although she did try to kill herself twice. She knew the third suicide attempt would have taken, and she prayed. Now, Angel Ariel, started to visit Clair Candy 2.5 years before she actually said yes. Because it's one thing to ask to be taken out of the body, but this is the only physicality that we've ever known. So we're veiled when we come in. We don't know how blissful and how amazing it is across the veil. If we did, we'd take ourselves out. So it took me about 2.5 years to talk to her until she was 100% sure that she wanted to leave the body, walk out, and go to God with honors, absolute honors for the life that she lived, in order to give over this vessel, this funny little physical meat suit I'm in order for me to be of service to humanity. And that's exactly what happened. We often hear of how people have a car accident, or they go through an operation, or they, and then they wake up and somehow that they're different. Mine happened through a very deep meditation. And when I woke up, it was like I was living a nightmare. I was living the wrong life and with very negative people because of the trauma that Clair Candy had suffered. Everything around her was negative. Her partner that she had, the business that she had, where she was living was in a cockroach-infested, termite-infested home that she had been talked into buying as an investment, and she lived there. But when you're in the fog and so deeply traumatized, you don't even realize you're in the fog. And so when I walked in, what was most important to me was respect and honor. And I went about systematically dismantling everything in her life so that I could take over her responsibilities, clean up her life, and so that I could get on with being of service to humanity. And that's exactly what happened. Many people have said, "Oh, it sounds cool to be a walk-in." Well, first of all, you can't consciously ask for this to happen.
Yeah.
You can't consciously ask, because if you, let's say you're having extraordinary grief, or you've been brokenhearted, and you'll say, "Oh, I'll just walk out." It doesn't happen like that. And the other part is that every single day of being in this human meat suit is a chore for me, because I do remember what it is like on the other side. I do remember. And it's a constant balancing act of being in a human form, yet remembering what it is like across the veil. I'll tell you the other hard part that I have, Chris, and you're going to laugh.
I would love to listen. Go right ahead.
This body is 5'3", 5'3" 3/4. Don't forget the 3/4. I am a 9-foot shard of light.
Yeah.
And to squeeze myself into this 5'3" 3/4 body every single moment of every single day is claustrophobic. Every single moment. But it's only lasting about 2 or 3 weeks in the 0 point energy from where I'm from. So an 80, 90, 100 year, whatever it is, life on here is just on the other side.
Yeah.
They say, I'll see you in a few minutes, or I'll see you soon, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm here to be an example to everyone. Not that I am the arbiter of anything or the be all and end all, but another thing walk-ins do is they youthen as they get older, and I just turned 70 last year.
Yeah, you only look like you're only like in your 60s. And I'm being honest. It's like for me though, like I'm turning 52 this year.
Yeah.
Right, and I don't even look like my age.
It's the energy, because it's the light that is emitting out of you. It's the juices that keep you young and interested in life, and it never gets old. Human nature is just so extraordinary. So I've helped a lot of people through those 23 years, with so many people being seated on the planet. I had a very fast-tracked, easy time of it, being sent by Spirit, the people, to confirm to me that I've had an angelic walk-in experience. And I have helped other people who have thought, well, maybe I had this experience as well. A lot of people have what is called not a full walk-in experience, but they have a soul braiding. Have you heard about that?
I have, but I haven't fully understood what that is. And
Okay.
our listeners might want to hear about this.
Okay. So when you want help, and you ask Spirit for help in many instances, but you don't want to fully walk out of the body, you open yourself up for an advanced spiritual soul to come in, and it's like they rent a room in this physical form with you. They help you out. Now, I've had my most recent client I had was a woman in Australia, and she said that she was very confused because one day, she was having all of this anxiety, and then suddenly, she felt peaceful. We went through, and it was confirmed when we looked in her records, Akashic records, that she had asked for an advanced spiritual soul to come in and to house in her for a while. She asked me how long. I said, I can't tell you how long. How long you rent a room out to somebody. I said, you're more calm, you're more peaceful, you're more clear. And she said, well, maybe I'll only do it for 3 months. And then she said, maybe 6 months. It's been several years. And she said, my life has turned around so extraordinarily. I can't imagine ever being without this best friend of mine.
Yeah.
So that's soul braiding. They can come in for a short amount of time, or that they can come in until the body is no longer here.
Yeah. So gosh. Now, it's with your services though, I'm just noticing like your angel readings.
Yes.
Now, are you using oracle cards or are you using the tarot cards for your angel readings?
Well, I use a combination of both,
Okay.
but mostly, it's channeled messages, and I don't touch the tarot or the oracle cards until we look at the person's life from an angel's perspective.
Yeah.
That's where we look first and foremost to get an overview of why they chose to come in, what lessons they chose to come in with. This way, we get a clear picture that they're not a victim, there's nobody to blame, and then this way they do the most important tenet of Angel Healing House. In my mission statement 23 years ago, I wrote for my business, Angel Healing House, that it has 5 important tenets. The first one is responsibility. Every person, place, and thing that we've ever come face to face with in this life, we are responsible for it, and therefore we're not a victim, and nobody's to blame. The second is forgiveness, not for the other person, but for ourselves. Yeah. Because it lifts forgiveness off of our soul. And the 2 things we get from forgiveness are untold peace and untold happiness. The third is non-judgment, because judge ye not that ye be judged yourself. There is no judgment. That's just a programmed thing to keep us in fear and doubt and thinking that we're not worthy or not deserving. The fourth is gratitude for our infinite blessings. And fifth is unconditional love. Now, many people who think with a name like Angel Healing House that the first would be unconditional love. Hallelujah. It's not. But it's not. You can love somebody and not take responsibility for your life. Because if you want your life to change, you must first put responsibility above love.
Yeah.
And take care of the kingdom that is in here. It's not out there. It's all within. Turn the mirror back on yourself and reacquaint yourself with the divinity that's in here. The reason why faiths and beliefs, religions, all of those things have told us to seek and ye shall find. Seek outside of yourself in a building or a mosque or a church or a synagogue is because it stops us from looking in here to the real treasure that's been there all along.
Yeah, well spoken. It's like, gosh, yeah. I was just thinking though about a couple of things I've gone through this within my life. Like, just how can I say? 4 years ago, I lost both my parents, 7 months apart. But I had a best friend of mine turn around to me and she said to me, "I wish I had the courage that you actually have," because people kept on thinking I was going to be turning like sad and all that, but I was doing the rejoiceful way. And I said to people that, I'm actually celebrating that my parents passed away. Not in the
Yeah.
negative way, but in the rejoiceful way.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
then the other thing, though, is a couple of years ago, actually, I was hospitalized. I had an ulcer explode in the stomach.
Mm.
All right. And ever since then, it's like, like I'm striving. It's like I'm always going for the next level.
Yeah.
And so many
Yeah.
people think I'm weird. So, those have been going through my head, especially when you've been kind of talking.
Well, we learn our best lessons in contrast. We learn our best lessons through challenges and adversity, because if the lessons came easy, we wouldn't learn anything. A child, if you tell them don't run on the concrete, they'll run until they fall over and skin their knees, and then they'll be very hesitant about running on the concrete again. These lessons, they have to come in order to get our attention. What, for your ulcer, what were you thinking about, and worrying and putting all your attention on these things? What was your diet like? How did you change these things afterwards? And sometimes we really have to be pulled up. I was going to say, when you were speaking about your parents, and by the way, I believe it's either a mother or a grandmother of yours that is whispering to me, and she's saying she is so proud of you. It's bringing tears to my eyes. She said she's so very proud of you in the way you comport yourself, in the way you help others, and the way you're of service.
Yeah.
So in one of my Substacks, really important Substack that I wrote, not that they're all not important, but this one is called Conscious Grieving.
Yeah.
Conscious Grieving. And in this one, the former soul's father passed away in 2016. And immediately when he passed away, he has been with me, by my side, giving me signs. He was the biggest jokester on the planet. His funeral was on April Fool's Day, believe it or not. and a lot of people, of course, we mourn their physicality, but if we can put the emphasis on that they're still there, just in the non-physical, it makes it easier. It makes it more accessible to receive their signs. One of the things that my father sends me over and over again is songs. One of the ones is Over the Rainbow and Moon River. Every time I hear those two songs, I just bucket down, because I know that it's him, and I know that he's bringing me these songs. So if we can consciously grieve, it doesn't mean that we don't miss them. It means that we don't hold on so tightly to that sorrow, and that we can relieve that by affirming that they are still living in the non-physical.
Yeah, that's the way I'm looking at both my parents, so that they're still here, they're both living, but they're living actually at a different plane than what we're living at.
Yes.
Right, yeah. And that's one thing I've always said to most people, those, hey, yeah, my parents have passed away, but the thing though is they're living at a different plane. And most people turn around to me and they say, they look at me like that kind of strange expression on their face. And I said, you have to be able to understand more spiritual than what you are here on earth. So it's like, so now going to your basically, I know so that you did some TV stuff in the past.
Well, I had my I've had many hundreds of interviews since I became very public about my angelic walk-in experience. I had 12 years of Angel Healing House radio on Blog Talk Radio.
Okay.
Before its demise, and then Podbean took over a lot of those former Blog Talk people. But I had callers calling in from all over the planet. I mean, Ireland, England, Australia, Buenos Aires, I think Brazil, in the Middle East. And for intuitive counseling, the first 20 minutes I had was speaking of ascension, because a lot of people didn't know what was happening back then.
Yes.
You know, what are the ascension symptoms? What, the planet, what are the planets doing? And I wove that all together with channeled messages from the Posse of Angels and myself in the first 20 minutes. And then I said, okay, if you want intuitive counseling, just call in. And some of the most heartfelt, wonderful conversations were had. And I created a community of light, an international community of light. I have since then, with the closing of Blog Talk Radio, I've started to put more emphasis. The Posse of Angels said that was a chapter of your life. Not that you'll not ever do another podcast, but we want you to put your emphasis now on your writing.
Yeah.
And I've written another 4 books, but they said it's not time to bring them out yet. So they're in the waiting,
yeah,
and they're waiting for the right divine timing to be coming out.
So goes, yeah, and it's always good though, because writing the books, though, I'm gonna say I've read quite a bit of books, and some of them actually do speak quite strong, and I presume though, you like what you were saying though, is yours does speak quite strong to other people. But there's some though other ones I've read, and I've like lost myself in the reading, and I find though that even though people have said to me though it's good to read the books that have got me lost, I presume though that your books would be a lot easier and more touching than those.
Yes, many people, when they read my life specifically as an young African girl that was ripped away from her homeland and demoralized and dehumanized, they can't see the words because of the tears that are coming down. Yeah. One person said to me, the realness that you write with is just, I'm there with you. I'm there. And how do you do that? I said, the way that I'm doing that is because I remember it. I see it. I said, I remember my past lives so clearly, and some of them were very, very difficult. I'll tell you another story. When I walked in, and I remembered my second life that I speak about in this book, spoiler, everyone, is occasionally I would look down at my feet and they were blue, and I saw ropes around my ankles because I was a midwife healer in a serfdom in the 14th century as a healer. The church didn't like the empowerment that I was giving my serfdom. They trumped up a charge, and spoiler alert, they had me burnt at the stake. Yeah. And I could so vividly remember that I smelled my flesh burning and I saw my blue ankles with those ropes tied around it. So there's just such acuity of my remembering my past lives, and I poured it all into one true home, so that people would stop and say, yes, this is your life, but I remember that arc where I returned to heaven. I wrote in my book of life with the Etheric Council, and then I came in again. They remember their divine.
Yeah. That's it. And how can people reach out to you?
They can look at my website, which is www.angelhealinghouse.com. My number is 831-277-3716. That's Eastern Standard Time here in the States. And you can always email me at Candy, CANDY, at angelhealinghouse.com. I also am a writer on Substack, and also I have just started to post my videos exclusively on Substack for paid subscribers. You might see reels from those videos on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page, I have a LinkedIn page, and those reels are on YouTube. But for full video content, people become full paid subscribers on my Substack.
And today's post that you did, really good. So that's
Isn't that lovely?
For our listeners,
yeah,
right? Since they're searching to do with the difference of balance of Earth and also do with the heavenly side, what would you suggest for our listeners to do?
Okay, the first thing I would say to them is stop trying to be more spiritual. You cannot be more spiritual than you are. Your spirit in a human form. So yes, it's nice to have crystals, and it's nice to have incense, and it's nice to have candles and all of these lovely things, but they're accoutrements. That's what they are. This inside of here is the spirit in human form. So stop. That's another Substack I wrote. You're already spiritual. So stop searching to be more spiritual. Put more emphasis on your joy, on your playfulness, on your fun. That's what keeps you juicy. That's what keeps you engaged with life. And oftentimes, what was seeded in our soul by God, Source Creator, is what we do best. And when we're doing it, we lose track of time. We'd probably do it if we weren't working. And then you weave your heavenly spirit into the earth plane, and you become that lost puzzle piece that completely completes the world. And you are a very important part of this world. Never negate that. Never think that you don't make a difference, because you make all the difference. People might think that the most important thing is to work harder or try to do something spiritual. By being that joyful being, you fulfill the experience of a human life. Of course, being kind, compassionate, and loving, but never dim your light for anyone or anything, because that light and that energy is what nourishes you and feeds the planet.
We do say thank you very much for actually taking part in today's episode. Again, those for everybody though that would love to get in contact with our special guest today, Clair Candy. Again, those you can check out our website or even underneath YouTube. Check out her books. It's a great pleasure actually to have you on today. Thank you very much.
It was lovely, Chris. Thank you so much. Have a heavenly day.